10th anniversary of gay marriage legislation going through. Now, looking back, you would think it had always been there, but there was actually quite a lot of opposition at the time, wasn't there?
Yeah, I mean, it was controversial, and there were a lot of people who were deeply opposed to it. There were MSPs in the Parliament who didn't vote for the legislation, including some SNP MSPs. But actually, when I look back on it, what strikes me is that it wasn't as rancorous a debate as I think we had all feared it might be. There wasn't the same rancour and, to be blunt, thinly veiled prejudice that characterised the repeal of Section 28 just a few years earlier. And there wasn't the kind of toxicity that, frankly, characterises almost every debate in modern politics. So, as we look back, I think it was a really important thing for the Scottish Parliament to have done. It was an important moment, reflected well on the kind of country modern Scotland is. But I think we should also draw some lessons, not just from what was done, but how it was done as well, because the debate overall was broadly quite a civilised one.
And what difference do you think, 10 years on, it's made to Scotland?
I think it's made a difference in the sense of how Scotland is seen and sees itself as an inclusive, tolerant country. We shouldn't forget that, the Scotland that now takes equal marriage for granted is the same country that within my lifetime, our lifetimes, still criminalised male gay relationships. So the journey was quite a big one, and the moment that we arrived at 10 years ago was a special one. It basically said that people in gay relationships, their love was as valid as anybody else's, and they had a right to be respected for who they are and to live as who they are.
And it's the same country that you talk about. There was not much rancour during that debate, but then subsequently the whole country moved into the GRR debate, and it was incredibly divisive. It's still going through the courts yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think whether on trans or many other debates these days, we can speculate endlessly on the reasons for this. I think social media and the polarisation that it encourages has a big part to play. But I think as a society, not just in Scotland, but arguably globally, we've lost the ability to have divisive debates in a civilised way. And I think the debate around the trans issue, important issues to be debated there, obviously, but the tone and the tenor and the atmosphere of that debate is obviously very different to the one that ushered in equal marriage 10 years ago.
Because that was during your time as First Minister. How do you feel about having gone from one of those debates to the other one? And how do you feel the GRR one went with hindsight?
I mean, that was probably the most toxic debate that I ever participated in, and I'm a politician that helped lead our independence referendum campaign. I'm saying this as a statement of fact, not as a woe is me statement in any sense, but I probably got more abuse over the trans issue than I did on almost anything else in my time in politics. So pretty bruising and pretty toxic. But also, I think, to take it away from me, because it's not about me, I think it's a reflection of how political discourse has changed in just that relatively short period of time. I think it's also a reminder that progress can never be absolutely taken for granted. I think we're seeing pushback these days against rights of all descriptions, and those of us who believe in equality and inclusion, I think we've all got to remember that these things have to be fought for, sadly, time and time again. But
it's quite interesting looking at them both, separately but together, because you would have had allies for gay marriage who were opponents in GRR. How did that feel? I mean, the GRR debate was difficult for a whole variety of reasons, and again, it's not about me. I think many people on both sides of that debate find it very difficult, and there's a lot of mischaracterisation around different positions as well, and again, no doubt that's in both directions. But yes, there are people that I absolutely would have stood shoulder to shoulder on gay marriage and other issues that I was in, a different place to on that. For me, one of my core, driving beliefs is the belief in equality and inclusion and the right of all of us to, be respected and, given dignity for who we are. And I'll always stand up for that. And, at times that is difficult. I think we live in a time where that is particularly difficult, but I believe in standing up for what I believe in, and I'll never stop doing it.
I mean, you're pleased, obviously, with having got the gay marriage legislation through, but are you disappointed with what happened with GRR?
Yeah, I'm deeply disappointed with what happened about that, not just the outcome of that.
Did you get anything wrong?
Look, I can't really reflect on that and how horrible that debate became, and I guess the outcome of that, and not question myself, could I have conducted it in a way that would have led to a different outcome? And possibly that is the case, but I'm not sure. I could have done much to avoid where we got to.
Are you kind of at the stage now of looking back 10 years on to the gay marriage legislation? Is that part of your political legacy, do you think?
It's part of the political legacy of the Scottish Parliament. I'm not claiming it personally. I was very involved in it. I was the minister who introduced the legislation. I wasn't actually the minister in charge of the bill when it ultimately passed. It was Alec Neil. But I feel, that I was very involved in that. So it's something, it's one of the things I look back on and take pride in, but it's certainly not something that I was solely responsible for. I think it's something that the whole Parliament and the country at large should be proud of.
But are you kind of at that stage in your political career where, having been the longest serving First Minister, for example, you are kind of assessing your political legacy?
I'm writing a book about it. So
about your political legacy as well?
I'm writing a book about
What's your
my
conclusion?
time
What do you conclude in your book?
You're going to have to buy the book.
but
I'll even sign it for you when the time comes.
I don't know, that might be worth more if it's not signed. Who knows? I might get one of the rare unsigned copies of it. But I mean, is that where you are though? You're kind of looking at that kind of... Because it's 30-year career in politics.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not First Minister anymore. I'm not leader of my party. I'm still an active serving politician.
You can do and
so
say
I'm
what
not,
you want now.
Well, within,
you can tell me.
Within reason. Well, you never know what I might say and do in future. But I'm not, I'm very much looking forward to and embarking on the next phase of my life, and I'm excited about things. Again, you'll just have to wait and see.
Does it tell me in the book?
It might do. I'm not finished writing it yet, so you never know.
Really? You haven't actually finished writing it? What is it?
I'm editing it.
You're editing it, but could you still add a few bits in?
I can still add a few bits in.
Is there likely to be a bit in about that talks about the problems the party's had since you left? Things like branch form?
You're going to have to read my book to find out what's
in it. Is it going to come right up to date with that?
You're going to have to read the book.
Are we any closer to getting a conclusion to that, do you think?
I have no idea.
Well, you'd like it to be pretty soon, wouldn't you?
I'm not going to comment on that.
But you want it out of the way, surely.
It's not within my control, so...
But I mean, you've said so often that it's been uncomfortable and a really difficult time. You must just want rid of it.
Of course, but it's not within my control, and I can't comment on it.
But you can look back with some pride on things like gay marriage. What else do you look back with that kind of pride on from your time in politics and Parliament?
I look back with pride on a whole range of things, from the independence referendum, although I deeply regret the outcome of that. The different things that we did to, I believe, help tackle child poverty. Doubling of childcare, the Scottish Child Payment is one of the things I'm proudest of. I think we put Scotland on the, at the leading edge of tackling climate change. These are all, areas of progress that I'm proud of. I think there's work to be done in all of them, and I think, and gay marriage is a good example of this, that no parliament, no government, no party, no politician should ever rest on their laurels. Work needs to continue to be done. Progress needs to be protected, and more than protected, it needs to be continued. And I think Scotland, on many of these issues, is at a bit of a juncture, and things could easily go backwards. I hope they don't. But they... Do
you feel that that's a possibility right now?
No, I'm not making any particular comment. I just think in any society, and you need to always remember that things can go backwards as well as forwards. And politicians who believe in progressive social change, who believe in equality, who believe in tackling poverty, even when that sometimes means taking on vested interests, it's important to continue to push forward and fight for the change and fight for the society you believe in.
From memory, I think it was a conscience vote at the time. I don't think it was whipped at the time for most of the parties. Another one of them coming up in a couple of months' time with assisted dying. Do you think that will be different this time? Will your vote be different this time?
I don't know yet, to be honest. I voted against assisted dying on both of the previous occasions. I think if the vote was to happen today, I would still
vote against it. There are some, not because I am not deeply moved by accounts of people watching loved ones die, or not that I don't believe that we should all have agency at the end of our lives as we do throughout our lives, but I have some, I suppose, very deep-rooted concerns about whether any legislation can safeguard against a right to die becoming, in the minds of some people, almost a duty to die. Better if I'm not here for my family. And also I have a worry about normalising, that at the end of life, dying as opposed to being supported to live with dignity and what that might lead to. So, but I am thinking deeply about it. My mind is not closed, and I'll probably agonise over that vote right up until the moment I cast it.
And I know we've been looking back 10 years. Looking ahead, just 18 months or so, do you think you'll stand again? I know your papers are in.
My papers are in. My papers are in, so that is the working assumption. But I'll take a final decision in due course.
You're going to see how the book goes?
No, I think I'll have to take the decision before the book comes out. So the two things are not connected.
Nicola Sturgeon, thanks for joining us in Scotland tonight.